Hello Internet, welcome back to the Fast Travel Lounge. You're listening to episode 42. That's right, the meaning of life is here with us right in this very room. My name is Patrick, I'm joined by the full gang, Saif, Steve, and Josh. Say hi everyone.
Hey, dickory dock. Why didn't nobody else say anything?
Had to wait a second before you went in, huh?
I was waiting for everyone else to say hello so I could ask you, Patrick, how's that groove I left for you in the host chair?
Oh, it's still tastefully
Tastefully?
tastefully asinine. That's not right. It tastefully suits my ass. There we go.
Good. So we both do have the same shaped ass.
We do. My question for you is, how did you get Josh and Steve to come back from their holiday early?
I didn't. I just fretted. You know what? It was just a fret of me not editing, and they're like, "Oh, okay, maybe we'll come back."
Fair enough.
We're not even here. You edited us in.
This is all previous episodes' voice dialogue
From this podcast.
I wow. I feel like this is a bit with the magic conch.
Yeah.
We just fill in the void with the sweet sound of all hail the magic conch. I gotta ask, what was it like having a week off, Steve?
I'll be honest with you, fellas. It was pretty good. I went to work.
Okay, well that's hurtful. You don't have to elaborate. You could have said it's bad.
No, please.
You could have said I regretted it. You could have started with a sigh and said, "I'm sorry, everyone that's listening." But no, you said it was pretty good. That's awful.
Well, if you let me finish before rudely interrupting, I was gonna say it's pretty good, but not as good as hanging out with the boys on the podcast. But look, man, go for your rant. It's fine. No, I'm fine. It's fine.
See, I don't feel that's genuine. Josh, how was your week off?
Yeah, no, pretty good.
Okay, fuck you too. That's fine.
How was your week on?
See, the question doesn't work that well for them because they've had multiple weeks off before. Sometimes Josh has multiple in a row.
It was like my third episode off.
Yeah, that's not more than Patrick's gotten.
Well, you know what they say: once, twice, three times a lady. There we go.
What?
What? Who says that?
It's a song lyric, I'm pretty sure.
Once.
No, it definitely is. It definitely
Pretty sure
is.
you're not thinking a man looks like a lady or whatever it is.
No, definitely
not that.
lady.
Outdated song.
It's a Lionel Richie song. Everybody listening at home, go look it up.
Why would I listen to Lionel Richie? No,
Why would they need to look it up when you just told them the answer?
It's true. It's true. When that comes up on Hurdle, you're welcome. Got to ask, what's it like having giant Samsung Galaxy Fold, Samsung Galaxy Flip posters in front of it, in front of you, seeing as, you know, we still might be sponsored by Samsung, kind of hard to tell at this point, but got to do the shilling just in case we get the money. I know that I've seen those ads everywhere.
I have also been seeing those ads everywhere, and, you know, if they want to send me a new Flip, I'll gladly review it and take the sponsorship deal from them. But until then, it's a no-go.
I've had numerous people send me that ad and be like, "Hey, Steve, you gonna get this?" To which I say no. I do not
to an iPhone.
That's is it a flip iPhone?
No.
The iFlip. You know what? Let's work on that naming. We'll get it next year.
I sleep.
If you have a good name for a flip iPhone, send it in to us.
Along with your credit card details. Final question for the group before we get into Round the Lounge. We've
Credit
seen...
card details. That was funny.
Thank you. We've seen... See, this is the sort of joke that you missed when it was just Seth and I on the podcast last episode.
I listened to that.
What?
I listened to about half of it. I'm still.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You listen to every episode, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Surely.
not news to us. You listen to all of them. Big fan of our own product.
Yeah, of course. I listened to them multiple times.
I mean, people say you shouldn't get high on your own supply, but that doesn't apply to podcasts. Final question for the group. We have Rings of Power and we have Game of Thrones House of the... Shut up. We have Game of Thrones House of the Dragon. Which of those two is more interesting to you? Even if you haven't seen them, which of them is more hypothetically interesting? Question for the group, Seth.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Rings of Power because at least the Lord of the Rings didn't shoot the bed as hard as Game of Thrones did.
Okay.
You're talking about the ending of regular Game of Thrones, or is there something in House of the Dragon that's gone horribly sideways that I don't know about yet?
I mean, just the ending of the regular show.
Yeah, fair enough. Josh, what about you?
I mean, well, I'm not sponsored by Amazon, so I'd probably not go with them. Probably.
But are you sponsored by HBO?
I don't know. It can be.
More like HBO.
The table's
just,
open.
HBO.
I'm
just add
surprised. I'm surprised that you're flirting with the idea of being a part of House of the Dragon, given your vehement.
You're right the first time.
Vehement. Yeah. No, we'll take that. Opposition to house ownership, and the show is called House of the Dragon. So I'm just trying to figure out how to square that circle.
You know, it's not
Honestly,
a hate for
facial
house
reply.
ownership. It's just a hate for people that own houses,
It's
specifically
not even
landlords.
that. It's the landlords specifically. No, I actually never saw the third Lord of the Rings movie or the third Hobbit movie, so I don't really have a huge amount of interest in Rings of Power.
If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. There, I said
Well, just wait until you hear about Sonic Frontiers, my man.
Oh god.
it. Ooh, Sonic loves his rings.
He does. He really does. Steve, what about you?
Personally, I haven't seen Game of Thrones. Yep, there you go. I'm that guy.
Wow.
I haven't seen it. It's on my list. I'll definitely get to it sometime in my
Just
life.
skip the last season.
Everybody says that, but then that would be unfinished, and I'd rather die than
It's
leave.
unfinished with the
actually
last
did.
season.
I actually did just skip the entire last season for the record. Every week I just saw people non-stop complaining about it being awful. I was just like, I'm not putting myself through this.
So Rings of Power is my answer, but I could take or leave that. I could take or leave either of them.
Thanks for the metalcore vocal in there.
What a strange thing to say.
Right. Well, much like Sam Wise Gamgee and Frodo Baggins' slow trek
And
towards
their cousin
Mordor,
Samsung.
and shut the fuck up, Josh. We're going to slowly trek towards Run the Lunch.
Potatoes.
Okay, now you're just being rude. Run the Lunch for this week. Why don't we start with you, Steve? You had a week off. How much sweet gaming content did you manage to pack into 1 week off?
I'll be honest with you. Not that much. Work is pretty hectic, so I did not get to put in that much gaming, as they say. But I have, over the last couple of weeks, played and finished through 2018's God of War.
Really?
I am
Boy,
Kratos.
that is a game.
I can't believe it's 4 years old.
It has
Wow,
been
that-
quite a
I
while,
heard-
yes.
I can't believe that. Here we go. Steve comes back for a week off, and he's like, you know what, fellas, 4 years old games are really my vibe this week. Which honestly, for God of War, fair enough. Josh, what did you do with your week off?
I didn't really get up to much. I've been playing a little bit more Escape from Tarkov, and then spent a lot of time learning and working. So
Man
not
takes
much
a
for
week
me.
off and he brings us no content.
Bro,
Yeah,
you could just say that you were live, laugh, loving last week. It's fine.
I don't think
I'm gonna
anybody should
judge
say
you
that,
for
Pat.
but-
I don't think I would. I don't think anybody should say that ever. How dare you? That's probably the worst form of words I've ever seen.
Well, you know what? This is
Man
Josh's
woke
week,
up and chose
so
violence.
Surely there's like a game or one of those. It's like
hey
live
man,
every
you-
game,
if you have an issue with it, take it up with management. Honestly,
laugh
Seth,
at
what about
every
you?
game.
So
Love
there was
every
a
game. That's how it
slew of
works.
demos that came out last week. I've played only one of them, so I'll be talking about the Wolong demo that released last week. And will be
Is it a long
over
demo?
by the time that this podcast is out. You'll no longer be able to play it. Time
Right,
limits
Is it a long
for
gonna
demo?
live-
content.
No.
Vicariously through the sweet nothings that you whisper into our ear holes.
Exactly.
Is it a long demo?
Fair enough.
Whoa, it's too long. Is the joke there? Maybe next time.
So you notice how no one took the bait, Steve? The fact that you still went for it, kinda sad. Gotta be honest. So question for you, Josh. Here we have everyone's around the lounge, but we don't have the album of the week sponsored by September Ford Truck Month Krispy Kreme Samsung. So what would be the album of the week sponsored by Ford Truck Month September Samsung Krispy Kreme?
Hang on,
It
just before we get into it, wouldn't September and Ford Truck Month like cancel each other out? Like one of us is driving a car and the other one's like happen to go for walkies. Like what are we
But
doing?
you see the so. Okay, let me break it down for you, Steve. The
Look,
deals
every
on
family has a
Ford-
Meg, and they walk.
Okay, well, taking a slightly different tack, the deals in Ford Truck Month are so good that you have to just step towards them. And really, what's stopping you from walking down to your Ford dealership and picking up a great deal? That's
I don't
what
like
I'm
how
saying.
much this sounds like a real sponsorship.
Check is in the
Come
mail.
on down.
Henry Ford, we're expecting some money.
Buy Ford and Ford accessories.
And mention us for absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Mention Fast Travel Lounge for a weird look in the showroom. But seriously, what is the album of the week, Josh?
It is Manic by Wage War.
I'll be honest, I only know one song from Wage War, which is Don't Let Me Fade Away. Excellent song.
Oh,
I don't
excellent
think that's,
song.
I don't
It's
think
not on
that's
this
part
album.
of. Yeah, it's not part of Manic. So tell me about Manic.
So Manic is their new album that they released last year. Like almost a year ago exactly, actually. It was the 1st of October last year. They basically got together and said, well, all our shows are cancelled. We need to do something as a band or we're going to fall apart, right? So they basically rented
Relatable.
like this log cabin up in the mountains in somewhere in the US. I don't remember exactly where. And they set out to record an album, and they also recorded a bunch of small videos of the like making of the album. They're available on YouTube if you're interested. Very cool stuff. They basically got together, said, okay, well, we're going to spend this time and energy to make like our best album yet. And oh my god, did they deliver? They did a fucking killer job.
Yeah, I
Is there anyone
looked
that
at
likes
the,
metalcore? Oh, it's the holy grail.
I looked at the Wikipedia page for this earlier, and it's like they've said that when COVID hit, it practically made them jobless because they lost all their tour dates and everything. So yeah, they just have to bang out an album, otherwise they're not making any income during the COVID years.
Pretty much, and it wasn't just income. It was also like I completely understand if your job is to create something and go on tour and share that, and all of a sudden you don't have that. What do you do for the next year or whatever?
Yeah.
However,
Yeah,
you're
they
in
probably
lockdown,
had to
right?
fast track making a new album when they would have used that time to do something else for a while. Like
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
tour
They
dates
had
and
a whole
everything.
bunch of records. A whole bunch of tour dates overseas and everything that just got dropped. So they had to do something. But yeah, they did an excellent job. And the documentaries that they released, they're like 6 minutes long. There's like 3 of them. Just showed like the passion and everything and how they put it together. Awesome job.
Yeah, no,
Great
this
album.
was a really strong album. I'll be honest. Listening to it, just listening to it straight earlier today, I got to about after Godspeed, I kind of started
Just
tuning.
Death Roll. Yeah.
Yeah, when it got to Death Roll, I started tuning out a little bit. I still liked a lot of what was going on there, but it started getting a little samey to me. Not 100%, but it's something that I'd need to like slow burn the album rather than just listen to it all back to back like I did for this podcast.
So
Cool.
Slow Burn is the song after Death Roll, but so that went really well.
Yeah.
So as someone that doesn't actively hate the album that we're talking about, Josh, how do you
I
view
don't
it?
hate it. I actually really liked a lot of it. I was even going to give some of the top tracks I like when we get to that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just drop favorite tracks. What are your favorite tracks?
So I liked Relapse a lot. I liked Godspeed, and I really like Circle the Drain. I think that was probably my favorite on the track list. I also liked Manic, but weirdly enough, even though it's the name of the album itself, I feel like it was maybe one of the weaker ones on the list.
See, I kind of agree with you. So they released Circle the Drain and High Horse as singles, and they were both killer. And then when I heard Manic, the actual song, it's very different. And the first time I was like, you know what, this isn't like Wage War to me. And then I listened to it again since, and now it's my favorite song on the album by far.
Yeah, maybe I'll
Manic
shift
is
my
close.
Yeah, maybe I'll shift my tune on a re-listen, but going through them back to back, I felt like Manic was not the weakest, but one of the weaker ones.
Yeah, Relapse is definitely awesome though, and Circle the Drain is probably my second favorite song on the album.
Yeah,
So
Circle the Drain, I feel like I enjoyed the most because it had the least scream in it. I like scream, but something that this is a personal thing, and I want your take on it. I feel like every scream artist just sounds the same.
no.
It's just one of
I
those things
strongly
where
disagree.
it's like all scream just sounds the same to me, no matter the artist for it. I like it. It's just it all sounds like vocally it sounds very samey.
Well, Steve, as someone who I've heard can't make anyone scream, what are your thoughts on this album?
Wow. Wow.
Someone else woke up and chose violence. God damn.
Jeez, who are you waging war against?
Hey.
There we go, fellas. I got it.
Don't mind me, just relapsing over here.
Oh, and Eminem, not even his best work. Very
Really
good.
showing
Very
your true
good.
colours, which is another song on the album.
Thank you for explaining it, Josh.
Yeah,
I was
no
really
worries.
confused that you would just randomly pull a line like that out of your ass without it being some sort of pun on the old track list. Anyway, Steve, you wanna wage war on this discussion at all, or
Don't do that. Don't really use that.
I'm just trying to make sure he doesn't fade away.
I'm just sorry. I'm just too down to the sickness.
Boo!
Also a killer soundtrack, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, maybe next week. To be honest, I've only heard "Circle the Drain" from this, and it turns out that I've heard it from. Look, and don't laugh. You got to promise me you won't laugh. But
I cannot promise that.
an AMV, an anime music video.
Oh my god.
What anime?
Okay, but what was the anime in it?
Dragon Ball Z, of course. Well, technically,
that's
Dragon,
base
it was
then.
Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super.
Oh,
Okay.
even more bass. That's great.
It wasn't a
Whenever
very
I
good
think
video.
AMV, I just go back to it's got to be Naruto.
I think there's like 1,000. Oh, I was really big into like the Bleach and the Dragon Ball Z ones back in the day. There's a couple of good
dude that
Beyblade
does,
ones
like,
I've seen as well.
I have never seen a Beyblade one, but that sounds sick.
That
I
does
think I've only
sound
seen
sick.
like 2 or 3. I think I was what would have been like 13, 14. I
Isn't
think
the
it was
opening
cool.
to Beyblades just an AMV for like Beyblades itself?
True.
That's on fucking
Honestly,
slaps.
that's so true.
Aren't all music videos AMVs? They have some
No.
sort of animation in it.
The
Aren't we
gorillas
all
are
animated?
AMVs.
Yeah, it's okay. If you guys say it's okay.
Wow,
It's a
way
10.
to just follow the crowd.
You know what? Just for that, I'm going to give it 1 out of 10.
Wow.
This is absolutely the shittest album I've never heard. It makes me manic even thinking about it, and I want to wage
Hey,
war on the
there we
people that
go.
made it.
Ooh.
Just
Damn.
kept on rolling with those puns.
The death roll even.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I'm very
That
surprised.
one was good.
I'm very surprised, by the way, that Josh, you and our dear friend Jake have never once talked about Wage War ever.
But for information, I don't think a single day has passed in the last year and a half that Jake and me have not mentioned Wage War.
And I'll cut that out.
You're a coward. You're a coward and a liar and a thief. You took that joke from me.
So out of 10, Josh, what would you give it?
10.
Jesus, really?
Yep.
Insert 10 out of 10 air horns here.
You're aware that we have Kids Bop as a 10 out of 10, right? Like, are you saying this is on the level of Kids Bop?
I would say it's above, yeah.
Holy 11 out of 10, perhaps. Much
Yeah,
like
you
the
mentioned
most
11
people in
songs,
Kids
so-
Bop.
I don't know. I don't think any of them bang it as hard as I Want It That Way.
Finally, a
GG.
man that speaks the truth around here.
Oh, that's cursed.
What would it be if Kids Bop covered Wage War? Would that be a 12?
Oh my god. That would
That's
be...
pretty much what everybody would be saying.
I mean, they would be 12, but that's just because of their age, not because of the rating of the album. Right, and on the back of that silence, Saif, you want to weigh in with a rating out of 10, or are you going to follow in Josh's footsteps of giving them a tween score?
I'm probably gonna roll with an 8. 8 sounds good to
Okay,
me. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Feels
but
very Fence City, if I'm honest.
I'm fence-sitting between a 7 and an 8, but I'm going to lean towards an 8. I did enjoy
Would it
quite a
make
lot
you
of
feel
it.
better if I told you that there is an acoustic version of Circle the Drain as well?
I mean, that's not doing anything for me, but I will go and listen to that.
Alright, so another 10. Very good.
And
Right,
I'll
well.
cut that out too.
Well, as we climb down off this high horse talking about Wage War before we death roll into Circling the Drain, we should probably move on. So,
just
I
in
can
case
really
tomorrow
see your
never
true
comes.
colours.
yeah, if tomorrow never comes, we have seen the true colors of this manic album, and
We're never
it
going to
is an
say
absolute
goodbye to
banger.
this album, will we?
It's
Relapse
Really
was
holding
the,
on to this one with your teeth, guys.
Relapse was a song on the album. I thought you were quoting the Eminem album. Huh. My joke really from before, really schizophrenic album.
It was, yeah.
you know what? It came full circle, much like how we circled the drain.
Godspeed, Patrick. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Listen,
Thank you.
that was a good one.
Teeth.
Stop yelling teeth. You won't make teeth happen.
Song number 2. Teeth.
No, Blood did that one already.
Alright, that was it. We're peaked.
That is pretty big.
Thank you. What can I say? I looked at the album list and tried to make another shitty pun. No, we're going to move on.
It's a slow burn.
Thank you for that album of the week. Hopefully, some combination of September, Ford Truck Mod, Samsung, and Krispy Kreme appreciate the shill, I think. Not quite sure.
I'd ask Josh to give us a track list, but I think we covered it all.
I think we
literally did.
The only one I don't think we hit was Tomorrow Never Comes, which...
No,
Hang
we
on,
said that one.
hang on. Big
say
breaking news. In the personnel page under Rage War, the person that plays bass and backing vocals is Chris Gaylord.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Pretty good name, but it'll never... No Gaylord name will hit as good as Gaylord Fokker.
man, no, that is not a name I have not heard in ages.
I have no idea what that is.
Meet the Fockers.
Yeah,
Meet
I
the
haven't seen it.
Parents was the first one, I think. Yeah.
Alright, let's move on.
Well, as much fun as War is to claim wages from, we're going to talk about the god of it, Steve, God of War 2018.
All right, that's it. That was one of the segues of all time. So, God of War, you know it, I know it. It got a re-release in
10 out of
2018.
10. All right, cool. We'll move on. Seth.
I'm done. Easy episode today. No, so I'm specifically talking about the 2018 God of War. And it's probably important to note that I haven't played any of the other... I haven't played any... All right. Settle down. I haven't played any of the...
So you played God of War, but you haven't played God of War. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't make it any more confusing. And I don't think that I needed to be honest. Like, it came out in 2018. It's a PlayStation... It was a PlayStation exclusive, and now it's come to PC, which means us ex-pros will be getting it eventually. And
I don't think that's how that works, but sure.
The Windows is a Microsoft platform, and technically... Anyway, so essentially what this is you play as an older Kratos.
You play it on the Game Boy.
I don't like this, Patrick.
You've had time to stop. So you're playing as Kratos, God of War, ironically, the titular character. But you're playing him after some events that happened in the previous games that I don't know about. And he's got a family, and then like a wife and a child. The wife dies, and then someone... And then,
he had a wife. He still has the child.
Yeah, he still has the child. And then your wife dies, and then some guy, Boulder, comes through and just starts beating the shit out of you for no reason. And you're like, yeah, all right, let's go.
And that is the peak of the game.
Yeah. Welcome back to Mythology with Steve.
And that's it. And so essentially your quest is to take your wife's ashes with your son up to the top of the tallest mountain in all the realms, which leads you down a lot of different quests and leads you down a lot of different realms. And it borrows a lot, or it is very much Norse mythology focused. Whereas from my understanding of the YouTube videos I've seen, the original God of War series is Roman and Greek gods, I believe.
Just
They do a
Greek.
bit of everything,
Greek
but a lot of Greek.
specifically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all Greek mythology. Enemies are based on Greek mythology. It's all the Greek pantheon.
Yeah, because you were betrayed by the
Ares.
god of Ares, the Greek god of war.
And then Zeus.
Yeah, true. Which
He
actually
turns out
makes
to be your dad. But anyway, so it's yeah. The YouTube video I watched told me all about.
fair enough. Because I know that they, even though it's in the middle of Norse mythology in God of War 2018, they do make references to Zeus from Kratos.
Yeah, they make a few references to the Greek trilogy, or not even trilogy, all of the Greek games, because I think they do mention the PSP games every now and then as well.
Yeah, there is like a very sporadic amount of references, and this is long story short, the game part about this is it's hack and slash RPG. Is that the word I want to use?
That's what the original was. I actually don't think I would say that God of War 2018 is hack and slash.
I wouldn't call it hack and slash either. It's much more like almost Souls-like combat.
It's
very simplified Soulsborne combat.
Yeah, very simplified Soulsborne combat. Yeah.
I don't think it's more simplified Soulsborne. I think it's more trying to lean towards being a hack and slash version of what Soulsborne does.
Is that not simplified?
No, because Souls games are much simpler in their movesets than God of War is.
I think I know what you're trying to say, but because like there's a lot of like you've got a heavy attack, you've got a light attack, you've got your fists, you've got your axe, you've got your
you've got your rune
Blades of
attacks,
Chaos,
which are all special moves.
Yeah, you got your special moves that are like heavy and then light heavy. Sorry, heavy special attacks and light special attacks, and then you've got your son Atreus, because he's joining you throughout the whole journey. You've got his bow attacks, and you can sort of use his bow things to sort of catch enemies and build up a stagger meter, for lack of a better word, and then do like a finishing move on them and do a shit ton of damage.
Not to mention you still have Spartan mode as well.
Oh yeah, you got the Spartan Rage mode.
And the multiple weapons you can switch between at any time as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And you can actually throw your axe as well. That's pretty cool. And there are some puzzling elements when you're traversing the environment, or if there's like some secret chests to upgrade your gear. And there's a little bit of crafting, which I wasn't a big fan of, but it's there.
So we're talking big strokes about what the game is. What did you like about the game?
So I really liked the overarching narrative that was playing out. So the way that I've been thinking about this game is it is very close to an Uncharted or a Last of Us. Like the story is the big push for the game, and the gameplay is sort of just complements it and is just sort of one way of getting through the game. And it is a lot more, the gameplay I think is a lot more fun and a bit more different than Uncharted and The Last of Us.
And that is precisely what I didn't like about the game.
Because and that's the vibe that I was sort of getting, that I really enjoy the story. I enjoy the start of Kratos being a very cold father. He's trying to raise his son in the best way possible, but because he obviously didn't have a good father figure, he doesn't know how to be a dad.
Yeah,
but
I don't think he's a cold father. He's just unsure of how to handle fatherhood.
Yeah, and because
he's got his own kind of moral code and kind of like life lessons that he's trying to impart, and it might not be the best for his son.
And he's definitely keeping secrets because he's hoping his son doesn't become a god like what he is. He's hoping his son becomes mortal.
Yeah, and
like
speaking of the plot line that runs around that godhood storyline, I think was extremely rushed and was one of the lower points of the game for me.
Really? I thought it was really good because like
I feel like it was wrapped up way too soon. They didn't give it enough time to breathe. It felt like it was over and done with in like 30 minutes in a game that's like 14 hours long.
So that's an interesting point though. So for your specific playthrough of that, I'd be surprised if you could go through all of the story missions relating to that arc of the story within 30 minutes. So it sounds to me like you went from story mission to progress that arc, where I think some of the breathing time that you were missing might have come in the form of doing side quests.
See, I did side quests when they were available, and there was none available after that while that specific thing was going on.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just depends. Like, I do feel, because, long story short, for a spoiler for a 4-year-old game, what happens is Atreus gets sick because he thinks he's immortal, but he's actually a god. And then half of the cure is for him to find out he's a god, and then he sort of gets he gets a big head, and he's sort of talking down to everybody. And it's like, oh, we're gods, we should be telling everybody what to do. How dare people bore us with their mundane problems.
God, he's such a shit.
Yeah, he does. And it is sort of wrapped up, and it's like a lot of like quips that go on between the two. And it eventually does get resolved. But I think you're all right, Saif. It does resolve itself a bit too easily. But I still like that journey of Atreus sort of starting off as this sort of very rough kid, not rough kid, but a very soft kid. He's coughing all the time. He's quite sickly. And then he finds out he's a god. He becomes arrogant about it. And then at the end of the journey, he's very confident. And the relationship between Kratos, the dad, and Atreus, the son, is sort of like been solidified. And Kratos has, on one part, become a good dad. And he sort of has trust in himself to be able to open up and tell his history to Atreus. And Atreus is sort of comes to like his dad and love him. Like I thought it's a really good story.
Yeah, no, the entire arc overall for Atreus is really good. It's just the part itself where he's being arrogant because he's found out he's a god, to the resolution of his arrogance felt very quick and sudden for me. I feel like they didn't give enough time to breathe on how he gets a resolution to that. It's just kind of like he sees that something happen in hell because of Kratos, and then that's just it. He snaps out of it.
Yeah, like I think it was actually a really good game. I picked it up for like $15, I think, from the PlayStation Store when it was on mega sale.
Sure, that's cheap.
Yeah, I think it was on sale because Ragnarok's coming out, which is the sequel to it. But yeah, I think it's a really good game. It's very story heavy. On combat I thought it was pretty fun. So I'd probably have to give it. I don't do halves, so I reckon I'd give it an 8. It's a really good game, but I think it drags out a bit too long.
8 does sound reasonably fair, even from a stance of where I don't really like it. Like on the higher end, I could see 8 being for the good score. Like everyone was giving it 10 out of 10, so I was like, no, that's way too high.
Nah,
it is not a perfect game.
No. Well, there are no perfect video games, but yeah, I'd give it an 8. I'd say check it out. Like even if you haven't played the old God of Wars before it, you don't need to. You have to sort of catch up, but through like YouTube videos, and it sort of does describe things. But yeah, God of War, play it. It's come out for PC as well, and I've seen a couple of mods, but whatever.
The Simpsons mod for that game is hilarious.
Yeah.
What?
There's a mod for the game that
funny.
replaces Kratos with Homer and Atreus with Bart, and they even replace Boulder with Ned Flanders, and they replace a shit ton of voice lines, and it's insanely funny.
Wow, I'm gonna have to go look that up. That sounds amazing. Right. Thank you for that, Steve. Why don't we bounce into Saif, your demo?
Yeah, no problem. So I played Wolong, the Fallen Dynasty, which is the new Team Ninja game. They're behind Nioh and Stranger of Paradise beforehand. And like me and Patrick said last week, if you listen to that episode, this game's based on the Romancing of the Three Kingdoms, which is a Chinese legend story. And the reason the developers went with this is because they wanted to try something outside of Japan. And it seems fairly good. They're just playing around with it a lot, doing more demonic takes on everything that's in there, and it's very, very gorgeous visually, like in terms of environments. And there's a lot of really messed up creatures in the demo that's in there already.
I'm confirming you played it on PlayStation or
PS5.
PC?
It's
PS5, cool.
The demo is only available on PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles. No idea why it's not on PC at the moment.
Interesting. Okay, never mind. Play on.
Yeah. So weapons that are available in this demo are swords, twin daggers, and polearms. Also bows and crossbows. There'll probably be more when the game comes out. It's going to be an early 2023 release. The same thing kind of happened with like the Nioh demos and the Stranger of Paradise demos. They had a very limited set of weapons just to try out this one level. And when the final game came out, there was a lot more to play around with. It's still using the loot system from those games as well, which I'm not a big fan of. I'd rather just have like set items that you upgrade as you go along. This is very Diablo-like, and I'm kind of getting sick of it at this point. I can see why they do it, but I'd rather just set weapons and set armors that do specific things and go towards specific builds. And yeah, I guess I'll go into the builds. Instead of having
I mean, if you insist.
Instead of having like the stats table that every RPG has, like HP, stamina, endurance, luck, and all that, they use the 5 Chinese elements: fire, earth, wood, metal, and water, and each of those go towards specific playstyles. So fire is all about attack and fire magic. Earth is all about defense and earth magic. Wood is support and supporting magic.
Wait. And wood magic.
There is no wood magic. It's all supporting magic. So things that'll buff, because
So you can't walk around saying that you have wood.
you can, since you're using wood as an element.
What if your wood lasts longer than 4 hours? Asking for a friend.
Get that checked out by a
Consult your
doctor.
local physician. Yeah.
Would you choose
Unless you're
something else?
Yamato from Naruto.
All right, that wasn't funny. A Naruto reference. But
And so wood being support will play into the fact that this game has multiplayer like Neo and Stranger of Paradise do, like the co-op and all Soul style games have. There's metal, which is based on debuffing magic and debuffing stats, and water, which is stealth stats and ice magic. And so instead of doing a stat table, you just pump into the elements that you're wanting your playstyle to revolve around. So that kind of like simplifies the process a whole lot more, that I feel. So going into what the demo actually offers, there's a very in-depth character creator that I enjoyed a lot. One of the big things about character creators that I think is kind of limiting, but I've understood for a while, is that they just have preset hairstyle options. So like you get your afros, you get your short hair, you get your long hair. This game lets you actually mix and match different elements. So you get like a base, and then you can put in, you get like different options for the base. You get different options for what your fringe is going to be, and then different options for how the back looks, and then even a different option for like a top knot or ponytail sort of thing. So even though they have presets based around those elements, you can mix and match your own style if you like, and that's really cool. But besides that, they have the more in-depth features you'll find, like sliders for how your forehead looks and cheeks and everything. So it's very in-depth and very enjoyable to mess around with. And then you go into combat, which this game kind of has a more ebb and flow sort of combat system compared to other Soul-style games. Every defensive action you take, let me restart that part. Down on the bottom of the screen, you have a bar that's split into 2 halves. On the left side, it'll fill up with a red bar, and on the right side, it'll fill up with a blue bar. The red bar fills up whenever you take defensive actions like blocking attacks or parrying.
Wait. I think I know where this goes. So when you fill up both bars, you get to phone the police?
No. There is no police in this time period, I think. There could be.
Seems rather unsafe.
Yeah, so defensive actions.
So what you're saying is the title of the game is We Long for a Civil Society.
It's Woe, but sure.
Woe long for a civil society.
Yes, we can go with that.
Whoa there, cowboy.
Whoa, long is the time that we must wait for a civil society.
We do live in a society.
God, what?
Hey, yeah, true, we do.
I think China had decent societies around this time. It was all based on dynasties, and I guess their police would have just been a military unit.
Don't like that, not one bit.
Anyway, like I was saying, defensive actions will fill up the red bar. Also using your special abilities and magic attacks, those will fill up the red bar. And if that maxes out and you take a hit, you get stunned, which will just open you up for massive damage. But being more aggressive also makes it drain faster, and landing in normal attacks will fill up the blue side of the bar, and you use the triangle button or the Y button on Xbox to do a heavy attack, and depending on how big that blue bar is, that's going to do more damage on the enemy and fill up their red bar even more. So enemies have these same red and blue meter systems that you do, and it's like an ebb and flow between who can fill up the bar better, who's going to punish who better, and filling up an enemy's red bar lets you do a fatal strike on them, which does a good chunk of damage, or even possibly insta kills them.
So how do you fatally strike an enemy, Saif? Walk me through it.
Fatal strike is just filling up their red bar or doing like a stealth attack and pressing triangle or Y on them. It's like the Dark Souls.
But I'm saying describe it. Like so it's late. I've been out. I've just had some fun with some friends. I just grabbed my macas. I'm trying to walk home. Suddenly, oh no, Steve appears in front of me in a dark alleyway. I want to fatal strike Steve.
Boom.
What am I actually doing? What's my actual action here?
Has Steven noticed you?
I think he's kind of dense, so probably
okay,
not.
then you just walk up to him and you just stab him in the stomach. And that's all you get.
Okay, I'm on board. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Also, an interesting thing is that they have this morale system in the game, which is like an in-stage level system.
Do I feel bad for stabbing Steve in the stomach?
No.
Yes.
It's not morale.
Shut up, Steve. This isn't about
It's
you.
not-
Shouldn't you be crying in a corner or something?
It's not morale like morality of good and bad. It's like morale like how good you feel and your like excitement level of the situation.
So if it was really good macas that I got before stabbing Steve in the stomach, I'd have a really high
Yeah,
morale.
and then after stabbing Steven, your morale would go even higher.
That's relatable, actually.
No,
that's
not-
I can see where the game's coming from on that one.
But yeah, the way this works is that enemies with higher morale will obviously do more damage and more stagger to you, and you'll do less to them. But if you fatal strike them, you'll go up and they'll go down, and your morale will increase depending on how good your run's going. So if you're
Hey, Steve, quick question. You see me in an alleyway, but I've got macas, but you don't. How shit do you feel?
I'm probably holding Krispy Kreme. And that's a much
shit,
nicer
okay.
food. So
Oh,
I'm
that
feeling
is
much better.
that's a boss fight right there. Man, I don't know if I can take that.
But yeah, so the better you're doing in the stage, the higher your morale will get, and there's checkpoint flags like what would be bonfires, but also smaller ones that just exist so that whenever you plant them, your minimum morale for the stage will stay permanently increased. The maximum that was in the demo was 20, and after
No. The maximum that was in the demo was Krispy Kreme.
After planting every flag in the stage, it just stays capped at 20. So even if you die, you won't go lower. The only way to go lower at that point is to just play poorly and have enemies consistently wail on you.
Filtered.
Exactly, yeah.
L plus ratio plus filtered plus having enemies well on you.
It's just kind of a way to show how prepared you should be as you're going further and further into the level. Which
Very.
I think is a very interesting mechanic, and like other games, they have a bloodstain system. Enemies that have killed players that you can see bloodstains of, they'll have increased morale just off the get-go. But
Dark Souls did it first.
Yeah, yeah, they did. A lot of these things come from the Souls games, and they just kind of like twist them in unique ways. So if an enemy is affected by killing recent players, then they'll be stronger. But in doing so, you'll also get more EXP payouts from them, and your morale will increase a lot on killing them as well. But yeah, the last thing I guess I'll mention is that the end of stage boss I thought was relatively fair. It wasn't too difficult. In fact, the last run I did, I just kind of like entered a Zen state and was just parrying everything because the parry mechanics in this game feel very good. And I just kind of cornered him and got him into a point where he couldn't do anything against me and eventually won. Only
So
complaints.
he got filtered then.
Yeah, the boss got filtered after filtering me for about 30 minutes.
What?
only downsides I had to the demo was that pressing the buttons to heal yourself and to unsheath your weapon felt sluggish. Sometimes it felt like the game was eating my inputs and they weren't coming out on time. And the time it takes between pressing the heal button and actually healing felt too long. So hopefully they fix those when the game comes out.
Is it the Monster Hunter thing of you have to walk around just slowly sipping from a green cup while enjoying your health go back
No,
up?
it's more of the Estus Flask thing where you put the cup up to your mouth and then it just tops you up right away. It feels like the action of picking up the cup and drinking the healing juice takes too long.
Give me that healing juice. No.
Well, if you had healing juice, Saif, how long would it take you to drink
I
it?
downed that shit right away.
Like a shot with like a slice of lemon and some salt, or
like how I down a shot of coffee in the morning to wake up.
A shot, man. You're one of those people.
right? So a syringe to the eyeball. Got it. Cool. So moving on. So obviously this is just a demo, but how excited has it made you for
pretty
playing the real
excited.
game?
It's it was a very strong demo. Minor gripes hopefully get fixed up. Looking forward to the game. I was really looking forward to it before, and this is about this level I was expecting it to be.
Fair enough. So we can't
that's
really
kind of
give
my
it a
stance
score out
on
of
it.
10
I'm not
because it
scoring
is
it
just
because
a
it's a demo.
So
Things will definitely change and be added.
yeah, fair enough. But thank you for sharing nonetheless.
Nope, just the
Josh,
album.
did you have anything to share, or
Actually, no, wait, no. I have a question.
Sweet.
Sorry,
Cool.
Saif. I was having a drink of water, and it turns out I muted my thing, so I'm just talking to myself for a while.
you waited too
You know what?
long,
Whatever I can say
if
doesn't
I'm
matter
honest.
No,
But long
say
story
it,
short-
Stephen.
Did this change your overall view of the game to what you thought? What you thought the game was going to be is what you played. Is that the sense that I'm getting?
It's not exactly how I imagined it. They changed up the magic system and the special ability system compared to other games, and I think it works relatively well. I wasn't expecting that back and forth system in the game either. So yeah, it's different enough from how I expected it to be, but still, like, at its core level, feels like a Souls game. But
Okay, cool. Thank you.
it's something also I want to add as a final note is that every time these guys make a new game, they get closer and closer to just making Ninja Gaiden again. I cannot wait for when they just make a pure action game again.
I can. What have you been up to this week, Pat?
I don't really have a huge amount to share. I was just going to quickly plug that it is the 10-year anniversary of Borderlands 2. And
Happy birthday, Borderlands!
Hey,
Wait a minute. I'm
yeah,
not
there
supposed
we
to
go.
be saying this now.
I booted it up briefly with Josh just because we were talking about how so Borderlands 2
No,
they
sorry, man, I was
celebrated
busy. Sorry, I was busy. I couldn't make it.
right. So Borderlands 2 celebrated by putting out a bunch of shift codes for some of the ultra late game weapons, which I have used and I have redeemed. I haven't really used yet. But the interesting thing was that somehow, because I go through quite a bit of music listening to it while working, and one of the music mixes that I put on every so often is a Borderlands 2 music mix. It's just the ambient,
cool.
like just a selection of the different ambient musics used throughout Borderlands. But the thing that hurts me the most is that Borderlands 2 came out 10 years ago, and since then we've had Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Borderlands 3, and Borderlands the pre-sequel. And I've played all of them. I haven't played all of the DLC. Well, there's only one DLC for Borderlands pre-sequel, but I haven't played that one. But I've played all the DLC for 3, and I've played... Let's pretend to call it DLC for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and I played that. But the problem
Don't forget
is...
Tales from the Borderlands.
Yeah, okay, and Tales from Borderlands. That one I haven't quite finished, and that's on my list of things to finish because new Tales of the Borderlands is coming out, and I'm quietly excited. But the problem is with all of it, is that everything that I play at Borderlands just serves to remind me how amazing Borderlands 2 was. And the thing is, it wasn't just, oh, that's just rose-tinted glasses talking, because Josh and I were talking, and we ended up booting Borderlands 2 just to play it for a little bit. We only played it for not even an hour, just 30 minutes. But even in that 30 minutes, because I was trying to kind of speed run them towards the end game, because that's where I'm at, and that's where I think a lot of the fun is. But to me, the game holds up. The game doesn't hold up in two distinct areas, and that's only because subsequent games have introduced better movement. So Borderlands 2 does feel a little old based on some of the movement mechanics that I've come to expect from other games that are just newer, but 10 years old. What can you do? But so much of the rest of the game, the polish, the character writing, the ambience, the music, the aesthetic that it was going for, are fantastic. And so I imagine, I haven't actually checked this, but I assume Borderlands 2 is either cheap because it's on sale because of the 10-year anniversary, or it's just cheap generically because it's 10 years old. I would highly recommend anyone that has ever enjoyed either a Borderlands game or even just any kind of first-person looter shooter, because Borderlands 2 is still probably one of my favorite games of all time. And this is just a quick plug to say that I haven't played it for maybe like a year or two, because it's been a while since I've last booted it, but as soon as I booted it up, you hear the menu music, it's just instant nostalgia for the 800-something hours that I put into it, and man, what a game. So happy birthday, Borderlands 2. That's really all I wanted to say. It's just a quick plug. That's basically all I've been up to. Really hope that Tiny Tina's get some actual DLC soon.
Did they ever confirm if there would be real DLC?
I have no idea. We're still waiting. So we've had 3 out of the 4 for the DLC packs for the season pass that I bought stupidly, because in hindsight, I don't think it was worth the price. So, maybe they'll surprise us with the 4th DLC pack, which is what we said after the 2nd and 3rd one.
I'll get back to you about Stranger of Paradise's DLC after the Gilgamesh DLC comes out.
Is the DLC in the room with us now?
But yeah, so just a quick plug. I don't want to harp on about Borderlands 3 pre-sequel to Tiny Tina's. We've had some episodes talking about Tiny Tina specifically, but
need to play Borderlands 3. I've got it.
But honestly, Borderlands 3, the movement mechanics are a nice upgrade, but Borderlands 2 is still the absolute peak of what the Borderlands series is, and what I really hope the Borderlands series strives towards again, because it is so hard getting people on board with the Borderlands series after Borderlands, sort of like the Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina's sort of era. It's really hard getting people on board, knowing what I know about the Borderlands lore and how good Borderlands 2 was and everything else, trying to get people into the story and the lore of Borderlands, because Borderlands 3, the story was the weakest part. And Tiny Tina's, I actually quite liked the story, but it's not a Borderlands game. It's a DLC spun into its own game, and I see why they did it, and it was like this big COVID project that they had, and that's all fine. You can go back and listen to episodes where we talk about it, but it's not a Borderlands game, and it's certainly no Borderlands 2. So, yeah, quick plug just to say happy birthday, Borderlands 2, but that's really all I have to talk about it. So please, anyone that has played Borderlands 2, go back, boot it up again. You'll be surprised how well it holds up. I think that might actually bring us to the end of Run the Lounge. Is that, am I missing something?
That is correct.
Wow. Made it through an absolutely blistering time, which admittedly is partially engineered by us because we wanted to see what a shorter format looks like. So, this basically is an experimental. It is an experimental episode. So please let us know if you prefer the shorter format, or if you like us talking for longer, because we are nothing but vessels for the will of the people. But that brings us to the end of Round the Lounge for this week. Thank you to everyone for sharing, and that means we get to move on to part 2 for this week, which is of course the news. And kicking off this week, we have an absolute banger of a story: EVGA getting out of the GPU thing after splitting with NVIDIA, which is like a titanic partnership. I cannot think of a time when NVIDIA and EVGA haven't been partnered. Is that?
Yeah, that's
pretty
wild.
much since their inception. Yeah.
Most NVIDIA cards I see are EVGA cards.
Yeah, that's what I
mad. So I of course know what EVGA is. But for my little brother who likes to watch the podcast, he's very young. He's only 6 years old. He doesn't quite understand it. Can you give us a 2-minute overview of what that is? I don't understand this. And by me, I mean my brother. Sorry.
So EVGA basically are so the way that NVIDIA and AMD do their graphic card business is that they will sell a reference card, and that reference card is usually just at a certain clock speed, has certain types of cooling, stuff like that. Companies like EVGA or Palette or whatever, they put on their own aftermarket cooling and clock up the speeds or clock down the speeds and do various things with it, add water cooling, stuff like that. EVGA has been basically the pinnacle of support and high-end NVIDIA cards for quite a long time. Like pretty much ever since I've got into computing, they've been the top of the line. And they're basically quitting their partnership and saying, even though it's 80% of their profit margin for their business, by the way,
and
saying
they're getting out of the
just,
market entirely for the record.
they're getting out of the GPU market entirely, yeah. So they're saying that, you know what, this just isn't worth the shit we have to deal with for NVIDIA. And while we wish them well, we don't want to do business anymore. We're going to focus on our power supplies, on our motherboards, on stuff like that. Which, honestly, they're nowhere near as good as their other graphics cards were, but their support's there, so I wish them well. But it's huge to see something like that come out of there, and for NVIDIA to basically walk away from this partnership and not do everything that they can do to work with EVGA is like wild, honestly.
Did they give a hard reason on what soured the relationship?
They basically just sort of said that there's been troubles over the last few years. I imagine it's to do with stock supply around profit margins, stuff like that. In terms of like, so one of the bigger things I know EVGA had issues with was when they releasing next gen cards, it's really hard for them to off-sell their old stock. So they like not having the heads up. So no one wants to buy a 980 if a 1080 is around the corner, right? Or whatever the card is.
You never buy a new piece of computing hardware 6 months ahead of when the next one's going to be announced.
Yeah. So basically, because it's really hard for them to do that on such slim profit margins, they can't like drop down prices and stuff, which I know has been causing a lot of issues. And then there's supply shortages and everything else going on. So I imagine that with things not getting better and NVIDIA just sharing less and less information, that they've just stepped out. But there's been no like official wording.
Neat. We're not neat, but all the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really sucks. Because they were like the high end, and they were like the big ones that everyone saw.
And it's interesting too because NVIDIA is always ranked as one of the best places to work for as like an employee.
Yeah, I've seen that. It does seem to be the difference to a lot of other video game companies.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I guess like for me the interesting part of this, obviously, very sad, I think, that EVGA is leaving the GPU business altogether, but just interesting in that you have the internal acknowledgement of NVIDIA being an excellent place to work for, but then the external, I imagine EVGA wouldn't do this lightly, so there must be some real shit going on with NVIDIA in terms of dealing with them contractually and as like a producer / supplier. So yeah,
honestly,
just interesting
I wouldn't be surprised if because obviously NVIDIA were keeping a lot of stock for themselves as well. If it's just a lot of just back and forth issues with the not necessarily the people at the company, but just the company itself and the way it's operating, especially because NVIDIA has been trying to buy out ARM processors and stuff like that. So they're obviously wanting to do more and get into more of the hardware side, and this doesn't really leave a whole lot of room for the AIB manufacturers like EVGA. So it makes sense to me.
Interesting.
I'm reading that they were also getting frustrated with NVIDIA undercutting them with the Founders Editions cards.
Yeah, exactly. There's no room for margin on the profit for them, so they can't do anything. But,
yeah.
Anyway.
Next up in the news for this week, Chainsaw Man gets absolute bangers of ending songs from a bunch of different artists. Who other than me wants to talk through this one? Because I don't really know where this is going, to be honest.
Well, I'm pretty sure Seth put this on the docket, but as a fellow chainsaw lover myself, they're pretty much
chainsaw connoisseur.
Some might say a chainsaw man lover.
Chainsaw Man pacing this podcast had.
That's me doing a chainsaw noise. So essentially what they've done is they just released a new trailer. They released their opening theme song, which is very good, and they've got 12 ending theme songs, and I don't know how that's going to work because...
They just play them all at the same time at
One
once.
per episode.
No,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
It's going to be a 12-episode-long season, and they're going to have one of these play per episode.
Yeah, so they play all 12 at the same time for the ending of each episode.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't... Gone are the days where I used to vibe out to anime theme songs and download their full versions and pretend that it was cool to do so. So this is cool, but at the same time, it's... and if you get like one song per episode, you're not going to really vibe with it. Like,
You say that, but like the first one, for example, is a band that I really like, regardless of them being used in anime, which is Maximum the Hormone. So they did like,
that's the
Resurrection
Death Note
F
people.
song. They did Death Note's opening, yeah.
Yeah, Maximum the Hormone is the one that I jive with the most on this list. I've sampled a little bit of all the other bands. They're all very good in their own right, but Maximum the Hormone is just like on a whole nother tier and kind of gives the vibe of what you'll expect.
So the question is, if they replaced it with Manic by Wage War, would it be better or worse?
Honestly,
Actually,
I'm not sure.
that would ironically probably Wage War is probably a band that would probably suit
Chainsaw
Chainsaw Man's general theme.
Vibe.
Yeah, well, I mean, Maximum the Hormone is very much the same vein of music, so
very true.
I don't know if Manic would be better. Honestly, it really depends on what they do with the animation to it. Like, if they're doing a unique ending sequence and putting that in with the show, then that's going to be really good, and I don't think you can replace that. If it's just a song, then you could replace it with anything.
Yeah, I don't think they actually mentioned if they're doing unique endings or if they're just doing
I imagine they will.
Oh, also added in here is Maximum the Hormone will also perform an insert song. So insert songs are licensed music that is played during the middle of an episode. So that should do really well.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Whatever scene they tie to that will be amazing.
Right. And to go from one disgusting news story about anime to another disgusting news story about anime, we have news coming in that Crunchyroll is replacing Mob Psycho's leading voice actor because they refuse to work with union workers.
That headline says it all, and it fucking sucks.
Does, and it's also an interesting one.
It's such a Sony thing to do, honestly.
Well, like, so to me, knowing very little about the story, it seems like it seems almost backwards in that you'd think that a company would want to work with people that aren't union workers.
Well, so he's saying, I want you to work with other people that are like part of a union, right? And they're going, no. We don't want people that are in a union working with us.
Yeah, they were willing to pay him like what his union payout would have been, but money wasn't the issue. The issue was specifically the fact that he wanted union benefits and other people from unions to join in as well.
Yeah.
It's a principle
basically
of the matter, I say.
Literally the point of a union, but anyway.
Yeah. And yeah, no, this sucks, and this is this season 3 is going to be the final season of Mob Psycho 100 as well. So they're literally changing the voice actor right at the final stretch of the series.
Yeah. Company does bad things.
Yeah.
Next up, there's weather outside. That was the worst allegory I've ever done. Sorry. You know what? Just ignore me.
Just like I'm going to ignore the next Sonic game, Seth.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of companies doing bad things, we have a Sonic trailer.
Yeah. I just want to gush about this a little bit because it's the only Sonic thing I'm excited for this year. Sonic Prime got another teaser trailer shown off. This one's a little more substantial than the other ones because it's actually showing off footage from the show. I just really like this because the squash and stretch effects that they show in the trailer are all really nicely done. It's just very visually pleasing to watch.
I don't know what that means, but what is Sonic Prime? I'm watching this trailer. It looks like a Shadowverse Sonic.
Let me break it down. Are you familiar with the Transformers series?
I have heard of them.
So think of Optimus Prime, but if he had to collect little gold rings, That's Sonic Prime.
Ah.
I thought it was
That
a
was very
Metroid
good.
reference, but yeah.
Yeah, so Sonic Prime is a Sonic show that's going to be Eggman does something stupid and it breaks a multiverse level sort of problem.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll get like all sorts of different Sonics interacting with each other if I recall correctly. He's going to be traveling through different universes and stuff. But yeah, this trailer specifically shows Sonic fighting Shadow. They're racing against each other and having a brawl. And also, what I'm assuming is the beginning of the Eggman fucking up section of the story, because he seems to break some sort of multicolored crystal. Yeah, no, just not a whole lot of story actually shown. It's more action sequences, but it all looks very nice and very visually pleasing to me.
Right. Does it look nice and visually appealing to anyone else? Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
There's something weird, like how he spins into a ball, but I don't know.
Yeah, that looks a little like I don't know, clayish. Like clay, it looks like it's claymated.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the things like the punches being thrown and the running and the way their limbs stretch and squash, for their movements all look really nice to me.
right. Well, speaking of things that look nice to people, Donkey has put out a video talking about how he and his wife, right? It is wife, Leah?
I believe so.
Yeah, they're married. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. It's just weird to think, knowing Donkey for as long as we have, that he has a wife. Anyway, Donkey and hey, I'm just being honest. Donkey and Leah talking about the indie game publishing company, Big Mode.
Look, I get this is coming from probably a good place in his mind, but the way the video plays out, it's like very self-absorbed and kind of egotistical, and
It does. I highly recommend everyone to look at this. I don't even know what the video's title is. Probably like what Donkey Big Mode video.
I think
My
it's like
indie game
my
publishing
indie
company.
game publishing company by Video
yeah,
Game Donkey.
It's the way that I can sort of see where he's coming from. He's like, I have a platform. I talk about games all the time. I know what good games are. I know what bad games are. I play them for a living. Tell me what your game is, and I'll promote it to the wild world, or I'll help you publish it. I can sort of see where he's coming at, but that video really does fucking wank himself off for about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, and it's like you don't know if a game's going to be good or bad from a planning stages sort of game. People are going to have like probably in-depth prototypes, and we'll have to show that off. And by then, they've probably a decent chunk of the way into making the game, and then he can just kind of like take a credit for publishing the game.
I'm not so like upset about that bit. Like
I'm not upset about that. It's just an observation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously every single company and publisher and everything has their own biases, but Donkey is one, especially particularly for me, where he'll review a game that I really like that happens to be an RPG and will shit all over it because he doesn't like RPG.
Oh yeah, he's never publishing an RPG game.
Yeah, so like it's just I don't know, like with the ego that was coming through that video, it's like
he paints a light that like a lot of indie games are successful because of his videos, and a lot of them are like the ones he shows off are very boilerplate. They were very successful before he even had videos out, like Hades and Celeste, and
that's the thing that threw me, is that
Undertale,
he's talking about how he
games.
wants to promote indie games, which fine. It feels really weird to nitpick him on this, because I feel like it can only be good for the space to have more people talking about games that aren't done through AAA publishing. But it was weird that all of the indie games that he talked about were all of the complete smash hits that didn't need involvement from him at all.
But they were glossed over.
Right, but I feel like pretty much like almost every game that he talked about in the 5-minute video as an indie game was a game that I not only knew about, but had played, which maybe coming from me, like maybe it doesn't make as much sense, but coming from me, I typically don't go out of my way to look at indie games. It's generally, I've heard good things about this game, I will go and play it. So for me to have heard good things about this game and to have gone and played it suggests that he hasn't found any indie games that I otherwise wouldn't have played. He's talking about all the indie games that were as popular as, if not more popular than AAA games. Because for me, if the indie game on your list is the game that won Game of the Year, like 2 years ago, like, yes, it's an indie game because of where it came from, but it's hardly a representative indie game because like how many indie games get that title?
If he wanted to show something off that was like a hit, it should have been something that he specifically contributed towards to, and I don't know if there's anything that actually is something he contributed towards being a big hit, because that video just showed off very boilerplate. These ones are successful, and I happen to talk about them at some point.
And the other part of it, which again, I really don't like just nitpicking this because it feels like we don't have enough of the voices like this in this space. It's just weird how he's gone about it, in that so much of his selling point is I have a large platform to give like views to these videos, which
just screams, hey, I will promote your game whether it's bad.
No, but it's not even an arrogance thing. It's that's what he's done until this point. What more does he do with the weight of his own publishing company behind it that isn't just making an extra video or two on his channel? Because so many of the videos that he talks about are videos that he featured on his channel as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure part of it is monetary. That's fine. But like I put that up against so Alpharad, probably one of my other favorite like YouTube creators in general. He's a big platform fighter guy. And he
very famously shilled Rivals of FIFA.
I don't know that game.
But I've already forgotten what the name of the game was. Basically, he out of nowhere dropped a video. So I guess I'm comparing approaches here, right? So Donkey is talking about, I've made this publishing company. If you're a game dev, reach out to me through this publishing company, and we'll talk about trying to publish your game. Fine. And then I look at something like what Alpharad did, which was
are you thinking of Slap City, by the way?
No, it's not Slap City. He found a game on Kickstarter that was a platform fighter that was developed to be, XYZ featured and level editor and rollback netcode and all the stuff that you want in a platform fighter. And he just dropped a video talking about how, like, hey, I'm not sponsored for this in any way. This just looks like a genuinely good game, and I really want this game to succeed. So if you are interested in a game like this, like basically just putting eyes on the Kickstarter campaign. And that game instantly became funded and got so funded to the point where one of the stretch goals became make Alpharad like do some sort of voice acting within it, partially because of the success that he helped bring the game. And I just have to compare those approaches of, here's Alpharad just noticing something and going, that looks interesting, and just dropping a video about it, which is what Donkey has done until this point. And so I guess I'm just confused as to what Big Mode as a publishing company does beyond just using Donkey's platform of, hey, here is this game I like, here is this video talking about it, go and play it if you want. So, I don't know, it's
the idea is to get those games off the ground in the first place. So they wouldn't have to go to a Kickstarter or something, they could come to him for funding.
And then I don't like I do want to be involved in your game. Like, yeah, I get that, I really do. But I don't know, it just came across as not only arrogance, but just I know what's best for everyone. And it's like,
yeah, it does feel like that. Yeah.
Like there was multiple things that he showed. Like, for example, talking about Walking Sim and the way he continually shits on Death Stranding. I personally didn't really like the game, but I know a lot of people who really love that game. And not because it's like a shill like he makes out it is, because of the story and because of the atmosphere and everything else with that game.
Didn't Donkey come around to Death Stranding?
No.
He sort of does. He does like a revisit video.
But then he shits on it at the end, going, I was right, this is still shit.
But like, he's calling it out for like one shit moment. It doesn't make a whole game. But anyway, I get the feeling we're sort of talking about something that doesn't really exist yet, and about like one content creator's
it's true.
video.
This is entirely first impressions, but I think what's interesting is that across the four of us, it's left a weird taste in our mouths, if nothing else. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because we're all, I think it's safe to say we're all a little skeptical as to how this will actually shake out, even though I think we all agree that it is good intention. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting. It's an interesting spot to occupy, given that Donkey, until now, his entire shtick on YouTube is talking about video games, and he wants to go deeper and earlier in the development process, which props to him. I just don't know if it'll work how he hopes it will.
Also,
But anyway.
by the way, Patrick, I think the game might have been Indie Pogo, the Alpha Red one.
Go.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to look this up, because it's definitely none of the things that you're talking about. So let me just
Either
look
that
this
or
up.
Framemakers.
Framemakers. That's exactly what it was. Thank you. It was Framemakers.
Okay.
Only took you 3 attempts, but I appreciate the effort, Seth.
The reason I put Framemakers last is because I couldn't find a video where he talked about that, but he talked about Indie Pogo. And everyone else it's other people talking about Framemakers and Alpharad's connection to the game, but not him specifically dropping a video for it.
Well, the only reason that I know about Framemakers is because Alfred talked about it. So...
Yeah, I will have to find the actual video where he did.
Maybe he deleted it. Maybe he knows something I don't. Anyway, speaking of people knowing things that others don't, the Saints Row CEO was kind of disappointed with the reboot sales, because it did ship 7.7 million. Which
No. 7.7 million is how many games in general sold in that European territory, and in Saints Row was in second place in that amount in general. So we don't actually have a hard number for Saints Row. We just know in that time period it's a chunk of that amount.
Because it blew my mind that 7.7 million was leading to him being disappointed with sales.
Yeah, no, that would have been so insane.
People would like kill each other for 7.7 million sales. So,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
I also
gotcha.
read
Now I
that
get the
way
context.
originally as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for the clarification on that. Man, imagine if that's how I opened the story on the podcast. God, that would be so embarrassing.
I know, right? Not like me saying that Crisis Core was going to be $70 when it's actually 40 or 50.
Not like us all giving you shit for buying Dragon Ball Z The Breakers, even though it's less than $80. Anyway, the Saints Row reboot, I think the only one of us that has played it is Saif. So, Saif, if you were the CEO of, what was the company?
Volition. Actually, no. I
Okay,
think this might have been the
Embracer
actual
Group.
publishers. Yeah, this might be Embracer Group themselves being disappointed.
Gotta get embraced.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, Embracer CEO. If you were the Embracer CEO, would you be disappointed with Saints Row?
I'd be disappointed with the community backlash about the game. They do mention that they have grabbed a group of core audience members that really enjoy the game, but it's been an uphill battle to actually make the game popular. And I just played another session this morning. The game's still fucking broken, and God, it's really ruining the experience, because it is a good game, but bugs just make it so unpleasant to deal with. But yeah, they're going to continue patching the game and investing into it. But whether
wow, really? They're going to continue patching the game that's a buggy mess?
I'd hope so. Some people would just leave it to rot. But whether a sequel happens is up for debate at the moment, and that'd be kind of disappointing if they just dropped it with this, because I do think the reboot does have pretty strong legs to stand on. The characters and the gameplay and everything are pretty good. But yeah, it's depending on how much it actually sold. I'd understand if they didn't.
So what's interesting is that this article talks about how GTA 5, 9 years on, is still out. Well, it's still like one of the juggernauts in terms of
in Europe.
units,
Yeah, crazy.
Is there
I'm pretty
anyone
sure
that
when
doesn't have
PlayStation-
GTA 5 at this point?
I'm pretty sure whenever it comes up, we always see on the PlayStation Australian store GTA 5 is at the top, and I'm pretty
But
sure
who's
It
buying
includes
it?
the shark cards
Yeah,
and stuff, though.
I'm pretty sure it's all because of shark cards.
Right. Okay. Because like I know that I have a copy of GTA 5. I haven't. I've only played little bits of it. Which
Go play it. It's really good.
Oh, I know it's good. I assume there's a reason why it's still the number one selling thing. Literally in the article we're talking about 9 years after it came out. But all I'm saying is, I feel like it's the U2 album on iTunes at this point of how is there anyone on the planet that doesn't have a copy at this point, given how many different versions and releases and platforms and things that it's on.
It is a mind-boggling thing that.
Well, so I guess totally biased opinion from you, Saif. But would you want a Saints Row sequel?
I would. I'd also like them to have time to release it, not be a buggy mess. God, this game was meant to come out.
What we want, can we?
This game was meant to come out in March, by the way. I cannot imagine the state of the game was in back then.
I think you can, because I think it's similar to what it is now, of a buggy mess.
I literally had Trin T-posing on top of her car while she was driving it away.
Sounds like a feature, not a bug, to be honest.
I guess. I guess it can be a feature if you want to. Saints Row 4 made that a feature.
True. Moving on, though. Speaking of Grand Theft Auto, people listening have probably heard about the GTA 6 leaks. The interesting take on this is that Rockstar is disappointed that the game was shared how it was,
I'm shooketh.
I'd understand.
To that chorus.
I'd understand as the developers and everything being disappointed with how it was shown off because it is really early footage. Like, there's still trigger flags being shown. There's footage from like just untextured, cubed test levels. This is not a good. It's not a good way to show off a game. You don't want to show off test footage.
But at the same time, like at what point just use like a couple of critical thinking skills? GTA 6 has no release date. For all we know, it's going to be released in 2026.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If people are hanging their hat on it, like it looks bad now. Like when it comes out, let's see what it looks like. Type of.
The only good take I've seen about this whole thing is that other developers have been basically posting like, "This is what my game looked like when it was this early in development," and they all look like shit. And it's just like, it's just nice to see industry support.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting on their back for or anything. People getting on their back for it looking bad as an early thing are fucking insane and stupid. I'm just saying from a developer standpoint, it is disappointing where the first footage of GTA 6 is this and not like some curated trailer that they would have loved to show off.
Yeah, well,
I think the bit that's interesting for me is that we just talked about how GTA 5 came out in 2013. And I don't think it's been confirmed, but everyone is sort of confirming, or like informally confirming, that GTA 6 began development in 2014. Which, I get it's a big game, long development cycle and everything. But thinking about the speed, like before GTA 5 was GTA 4, which came out in 2007, I want to say.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And so that like let's assume that began development a couple years before that came out. So few years in the oven, comes out in 2007. GTA 5 probably started development around or plus or minus a year of when GTA 4 came out, 6-year development. We've now been sitting on GTA 6 for what would basically be 8 years. And it's still a couple years away. This is a game that's going to have, I think, probably realistically, close to 10 years in the development cycle.
I'm curious if that's 10 years of full development, because I'd imagine a good chunk of people would have left to work full time on Red Dead Redemption 2 instead, which came out 2018. So that's still 4 years ago.
Right, but literally been years of storyboarding, right? You never know, but it's just the fact that it's been in development.
I think the part for me is that we're talking about how good or bad the game looks, but just in terms of the tech that has changed in the last 8 years. I'm not saying that they've nailed the engine down back in 2014 as to what they were going to develop on, but just it seems wild to me that a video game can sit in an 8-year development lifecycle, and no matter what state this releases in, unless it's a Cyberpunk 2077 situation,
Oh.
it's gonna sell well. I think everyone would assume that, because
GTA 6 leaking put immense interest in the project anyway. Like, people have been excited for the game, and then people were just excited to see anything that was coming up for this. People are like combing through all the leaks footage just to find any bits of information and scraps they can take.
Sure, but my point is that we have rarely seen a game recently that's been in development for as long as GTA 6 has. It's going to be really interesting to see how that length of a development process, alongside how fast some of the improvements in video game technology have been, as to what sort of game we end up with in 2 to 3 years when GTA 6 is actually ready to go out the door. So I'm just interested in this from a purely development standpoint of, you started this project 8 years ago. The world was crazy different 8 years ago, which is weird to say, but also kind of true.
Yeah, no,
any piece of software that's 8 years old is dated, regardless of if it's been in development 8 years or if it's been sitting there. It's dated. Like, you have to redo different things multiple times. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying if it's been in full active development that whole 8 years, or if they're just counting, we have ideas on a whiteboard, is started development.
Yeah, of course.
And
yeah.
In saying that, in those 8 years, they might have restarted multiple things. They might have changed the story a ton. They might have changed what map they're going to use.
I think it would also be interesting to know. I don't think we'll ever know, but whether the COVID pandemic altered their timeline for it, because I think Red Dead Redemption 2 was unaffected because it came out. Yeah, no, but that's my point, right? Is that I assume they would have had a plan if Red Dead Redemption comes out 2018, GTA 6 comes out at some time, whether
could be
2020
3 years later, 4 years later.
Sure, but whether 2020 threw more of a spanner in the works than they realize. We should also mention that Rockstar has also has also come out and said that even though a bunch of this stuff has been leaked, that as a result of the leaks, they aren't planning to alter the release date in any way. So it seems like everything is on track. It's just they've had the rug pulled from under them in terms of being able to front foot showing off how awesome GTA 6 is, which sad but not really expected.
The only thing I could see, the only thing that I could have imagined would have delayed them at all is like if they did a security update so that this breach of systems didn't happen again. But even then, that
or
might
if they
not affect.
lost data in the process.
Yeah, I don't think there was any lost data mentioned. I think it was just all test footage was shown off.
So you know how I know no data was lost? Because the only people desperate enough to hack into Rockstar to get GTA 6 footage would be GTA 6 fans.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they'd be stupid enough to delete any data.
I believe they also stole source code for GTA 5 and GTA 6.
They did,
yes, I've heard that as well. Yeah. So we should be seeing some good mods coming out soon, fellas.
That's fine, right? Because that's
if
like
they don't
that's
get hunted
like
down by the FBI first, because Rockstar is and Take-Two cracking down on it.
Sure,
Yeah,
but
true.
like that would mean that GTA 4 and 5, or whichever games have had the source code leak,
5 and
would
6
be 5 and 6, fine. But that means that they would be 100 and 101st in the list of games that have had source code leak. And guess what? No one cares. Remember when Project Red got ransomware and they said we were going to release The Witcher 3 source code unless you pay us money? And Project Red ran, you know what? Go ahead. And then they did. And then the internet broadly just went, huh,
Meh.
and then moved on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's right.
The only game I've
Yeah.
ever heard of where the source code being available to people and has benefited the game is the original Doom.
Oh, get that run on everything.
Yeah, it runs on everything and it's been reshaped multiple times.
Samsung Smart Fridge
Samsung,
Caca.
send me a smart fridge, I'll review it.
with Doom specifically. Yeah, I don't know that there's too much more for myself to add to the GTA 6 news at least, but yeah, just interesting. It's just interesting to talk about, I think.
Yeah, and
I
we
think
will
it's-
show none of it because we will be nuked off the face of the planet.
And the last thing we want is to put our sponsors in a position of awkwardness. Praise be Ford Truck Month.
They've done
Don't
so
believe
much
me?
for us the last month.
They have.
If you do want to find the
With
footage, Google Grand Theft Auto inflation.
No, don't. Without sponsorships, we could barely afford to keep our Ford Truck Month sponsor. Anyway, next up on the list we have Hollow Knight talking about how Silksong is getting PS5 and PS4 versions, which I think we all knew. It was just because Xbox got the head start in terms of announcing it.
I don't think it was Xbox got the head start because I think originally it was only slated for PC and Switch. And then at some point they brokered a deal to come to Xbox and get it on Game Pass day one, whenever that is.
But wasn't Silksong announced at the Xbox?
At the Xbox event, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it announced at an Xbox event?
I
It
believe it
was.
was.
It was
It was.
teased. It
Yeah.
wasn't announced. It was teased.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the Xbox was announced later on when they announced the Game Pass deal.
Maybe. Honestly, there's so much news we have to cover all the time. You could be right, I could be right, who knows? Maybe even Josh is right. That's a scary thought. But the point
I don't
is,
think so.
it's yeah, you're right. Probably not. The point is, it's coming to PS5 and PS4 as well, which is good news for all the Hollow Knights out there.
And just get it on everything. That's exciting. Now tell us when the game's coming out. Please. It's been so long. We still don't know when day one is for day one on Game Pass.
Yeah, okay, I thought that was a bait, and I was like, but they haven't announced it, Seth. I was quickly scanning the article.
That's why I am on my hands and knees begging for them to tell us when day one is. When will you release Silksong? It's been 3,000 years since Hollow Knight.
Yeah. Any Hollow Knight players among us?
I finished Hollow Knight earlier this year, I think it was.
Sus.
Bum, 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 bum.
I do need to play it. It's on my play later list in Game Pass. I'll get to it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Just like every other game I'll get to.
Yep.
I've done everything
Preach.
in the game except for do the Boss Rush DLC, which I'm not all that keen to go back and do. But no, it's a
What do you hate,
fantastic
Hollow
game.
Knight?
No, I really love Hollow Knight, but I'm not interested
You want
in...
to spit on Silksong before it's out already? You cretin.
I'm just gonna stop.
Thank God.
Well, speaking of stopping, Sony is deciding to stop PSVR games from working with PSVR 2.
This is so bullshit. Their explanation for it is also bullshit. They're basically coming down and saying, we've put in extra features for PSVR 2, so we don't want to make it backwards compatible with older games and turn off those features.
I think it's bullshit, but like it seems like they're not even trying, right?
Yeah,
like,
no,
it
it
seems
doesn't
like
sound
it would
like
be,
they even bothered to make it sound like they try for it. It's stupid.
Yeah, because like I fully get the idea that PSVR 2 is some next gen immersive shit. Fine. Why does that stop PSVR 1 from working at all?
Yeah, it's...
Well, it doesn't stop PSVR 1 working at all. It just stops PSVR 1 working with PSVR 2 games. Sorry, PSVR 2 stuff.
Yeah, one of the big things I wanted to do with their PSVR 2 is I was thinking about getting it so I could play Resident Evil 7 on VR. Guess not. Guess that's out of the question.
But it's okay because Project Dynamo, or whatever the fuck their backwards compatibility project's called, will mean that eventually you can just stream Resident Evil 7 as part of your super expensive $150 a month PlayStation Plus subscription.
I mean, I could still do that, but I wouldn't be able to play it in VR on PSVR 2. It's dumb.
It is quite dumb.
When's the Xbox VR coming? X-Bros, we're not...
What happened to the
HoloLens?
Xbox AR thing?
What do you mean? You
HoloLens
guys-
still exists. They just signed a military contract against everyone's wishes at Microsoft.
Whoa.
I mean,
Yeah, they did.
Xbox had Kinect. There's nowhere else to go. They did it. They won.
Yeah, it was
they won
perfected.
virtual reality.
Yeah,
very true.
I remember years ago they showed off HoloLens as a part of their Xbox E3 showcase, and then I heard nothing about it after that.
It's very much business and military complex.
Yeah, I actually got
Which is funny after seeing them try to show off how it could work for games, and then they just abandoned that, I guess.
No, it'll still happen at some point.
We'll get there, bros. Don't worry. We're Ready Player One any day now.
Ready
went
Player
to
One
an
was
optics.
VR.
I went to an optics. So was Sword Art Online. I went to an optics conference in Washington DC, and I actually got to demo HoloLens.
What?
Like,
You didn't say this before? What the fuck, man? Tell us. Is it cool?
What do you mean? Well, I'm telling you now.
Yeah, I know. Hurry up.
Fucking let me finish. And so so you might be thinking, oh, Patrick, you got to play with the demo. No. They trained me on every part of how to use the HoloLens, and I was the one giving demos to other people on how awesome HoloLens was. And I'll be honest, it was real sick for about an hour. And after that, it's like I've seen everything that there is to see in HoloLens. Like it's really cool tech. It is such cool tech, but it's like it's kind of like early Oculus of the couple demos are awesome, but once you get through the couple demos, you're like, so what else is there?
How long
And
ago was
there's
this? Because HoloLens has had considerable work done.
I'm sure it has. This was 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, 2018. Whoa.
Wake me up when
that was
I
Bro,
didn't
that-
know
that
back then.
that was exactly halfway between now and when GTA 6 development started.
Wow.
Same year God of War, right?
Yeah,
go.
it was
Hey,
too.
true.
Bringing it back to the circle, boys.
Wake me up when HoloLens has a official Yu-Gi-Oh support.
I'll wake you up in a couple of days when September ends.
HoloLens, Hollow Knight. Interesting.
Google HoloLens
Really makes you
inflation.
think, doesn't it?
I mean, I don't know
Does
about
it?
you, but I really hate it when Silk Song gets all up in my glasses. Am I right, fellas?
Is that a cum joke?
It can
God,
be if
no.
you want it to be.
No, don't encourage him. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the news for this week. A bunch of interesting tidbits to continue keeping an eye out for. Audience question of the week. Crispy Bacon, wow, what a name, writes in asking, what is the biggest crime you have done? I don't know, guys. I
Accidentally
think
made jokes about starting a podcast, and here we are.
I think he might be a cop, I'll be honest.
Crispy bacon, yeah.
It's the bacon part for me, to be honest.
Oink oink.
Just like Kevin.
Wow.
Anyway,
biggest crime I've ever committed.
Sorry, who's talking? Can you just identify yourself? Just before you just so the audience at home knows, of course, who's talking.
Actually, even if he identifies himself, we're not going to know unless
Yeah,
he reads
it's-
up all the digits of his credit card number and the 3 digits on the back.
So my
Alright,
name
who's
is
wearing the wire?
Joshua.
Wow.
I purposely hit something to actually bleep that out.
I heard Oshawott for some reason.
Oh my god, based.
Not really.
Biggest crime I ever committed was meeting
I was
Josh.
choosing Oshawott in Gen 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually picked Snivy. What a good Pokemon.
Snivy's cool. It has contrary, which is base as fuck.
Hidden
That's the
ability,
hidden
right?
ability.
Like,
Hidden ability,
Yeah.
though.
you're
but
not
still
getting
base
banned as
as
a
fuck.
starter.
Nah, but still based.
Imagine.
Based on what?
Contrary.
Oh.
Right, so does anyone actually want to incriminate themselves? Or
I got the dumbest thing I've ever done though, and I got a fine for this, so it's fine. The statute of limitations is dried up. So I went and saw, I think it was Fast and the Furious 5 with my friends.
And you
this is
just
not
paid
the
for the
start
movie
that I thought
ticket.
there would be.
No, and then I got done for speeding on the way home.
Did you say that it was for family though?
No, I should have. It was just like a red light camera.
Oh my
Like,
god.
Oh,
Not
Literally
even by an
zero-
actual cop.
Zero IQ play, and like it's because I'm going fast.
You're like, what was that flash?
No, I'm like, oh shit, there's a red light camera coming up, and I like put the brake on, and I just still went through it at speed, and I was like still pretty far over.
Nice job. In the
Okay.
Commodore, right?
Yep, Neil Commodore,
Yeah,
bring
boy.
it back.
So I guess the going on
Yeah,
car
what
related
license
stuff
plate?
because I guess we're all horrible drivers. I went to go get some food
Good
at
for
like
yourself.
I stayed up all night doing a school projects. And it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't had dinner. I was like, I'm just gonna go out and get
time
some
to
fucking.
commit crime.
I'm gonna go get some junk food. The highway was empty. I wasn't paying attention, and I just did a turn on a red light. Didn't get done for it though.
I'm
Wow.
calling the police. It's
You
not
see
fair.
that man on a dash cam video.
Only if I hit someone. which I didn't.
What about you, Patrick?
Honestly, I cannot think of a crime that I've committed.
He actually murdered someone.
No, that doesn't count. He wasn't caught.
They deserved it. That one was fine.
It's only a crime if you're caught, right?
Sure.
Look,
sure.
it wasn't murder, it was a hit.
With my car. Yeah, I've been
They
done for speeding, but it wasn't even like fun speeding. It was like 55 and a 50.
You got the New South Wales
side
police.
point. Yeah, side point. Still bullshit, but anyway, it's hardly
Yeah.
like the
You know
biggest
what?
crime I've ever committed.
You're going
Mine
too
would
fast on
also
your
be road related because I got done doing like 60 kilometers over the speed limit on my bike.
Jesus.
Yeah,
So he was
see,
actually speeding.
yeah. So that was actually.
Well, so it's quote unquote
wait,
over
wait.
the speed
Were
limit.
you-
The only reason I was over the speed limit is because I was in between cars at the time, and that's a maximum limit of 30 kilometers an hour, but I was doing like 90 something.
Okay.
So I was
I think
basically
you're going like
filtering
150
between
in a 90
cars.
zone. And I was like,
No,
what the
no.
fuck?
I was basically like skimming between cars instead of overtaking correctly, and because that's technically lane filtering, I was over the speed limit by like 60k. But the cop just was like, "I'll do you for like 10k's and don't filter like a dickhead," and I was like, "Yeah, okay."
Understandable. Have a nice day.
Were you collecting gold rings when you were speeding, or?
No.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta
So
go.
when you-
There was like one of those like generic trucks with like the wood laid down that looks like I could jump it though, you know? I was really just gaining up speed.
and when you hit the giant plunger at the end of the motorway, did you go into a ball or?
Well, you see, I did like a no hands and I landed with like good scores, so I was fine.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart.
And in true Mighty Bike fashion, the suspension was perfectly fine going off of a high jump, right?
Guys,
You've
if
also had
I-
a few accidents on your bike. I believe one of them was running into a wall with a tunnel painted on it.
Got him.
That wasn't an accident.
Wait, was there a coyote crying at your dismay, or was there a roadrunner laughing at you when you did that?
Both. For some reason, the brand Acme was like it was above my head.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
The Roadrunner was actually just a box of nuggets he tripped over.
That was bullshit.
Fucking nuggets. What the fuck,
That was
man?
fucking bullshit. That fucking. Nah, I'm not talking about that. Rip that bike.
Wow.
And that is all the context that is needed.
Right. So, yeah. I guess what have we learned? Josh filters like a dickhead. Chicken nuggets may or may not be involved, and I need to commit a bigger crime to be cool.
Don't do crimes, kids. We're not advocating for crimes. We are just retelling stories of our youth.
Yes, no, I no longer ride like that. So,
Crimes are bad.
Be gay, do crimes.
yeah. Oh, you know what? My biggest crime was being gay.
That's not a crime, depending on which
It was.
city, depending on which country you're in.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a crime in Australia. You just couldn't marry.
It was not a crime. It's legally grey.
You wouldn't break the law.
Just like the wall with the tunnel painted on it, huh? Right.
Patrick,
well,
go commit a crime.
I can't. New Zealand laws are too lax.
You say that.
You say that, but I've seen your drink driving ads.
Okay, I really thought you were going to say you've seen me drink driving, which strongly disagree. Drink driving, very bad.
You haven't seen me.
I really appreciate the drink driving ad from New Zealand where the guy's friend is haunting him.
Oh,
was a good
Ghost
one.
Chips.
Yeah,
Ghost Chips ad.
Chips.
That's the one.
I
Everyone
really
go
like
watch the
the
Ghost
New
Chips
Zealand ad
ad.
about the
See-
guy that's
see-
varnishing his deck. That was a good one.
Well, that's not drink driving related, Josh, so it's down
No.
topic. Definitely no crimes committed there.
All
Yeah,
the neighbors loved his dick.
Ghost Chips one was fun. Some of the drink driving ads are just sad, which I guess makes sense given the context. But you know, you win some, you lose some. Anyway, hopefully, Krispy Kreme gets some sort of incriminating evidence with which to prosecute my Australian co-hosts. Good luck, have fun. If you or someone that you know has a question you'd like us to answer, get in touch. We're on Facebook at Fast Travel Lounge, Twitter at Fast Travel Lounge minus one of the L's, and on good old Gmail, fasttravellounge@gmail.com. Please give us a like on your favorite podcast platform and a review or comment if you can. All interactions help boost our voices within the algorithm and bring us one step closer to being the preferred gaming and pop culture news podcast sponsored by Krispy Kreme, Ford Truck Month, Samsung, September. Am I missing any? Lollipops Playland, I think, was the other sponsor in there.
Playland.
What, do you know how
Lollipops
exists in Australia anymore.
Playland. Yeah, no,
I
we've
don't know
got
if it
it.
still
And their
exists.
PS2 controllers were always sticky.
Lollipops
they
Playland.
were, actually. They were. It's true. Anyway.
That has a different meaning when you're an adult, fellas.
It was all the lollipops.
Right. Anyway, that does bring us to the end of episode 42. Crazy. Hopefully, during listening of this, you did discover the meaning of life, because, of course, that's all what the meaning of life, universe, and everything is equivalent to.
God, I hate you.
I like this reference.
Behold the dichotomy of man. Anyway, we come to the end of episode 42. Anything interesting that we want to tease the audience with for episode 43? The big old 4-3.
Four's my lucky number, so this entire sort of series is lucky for me.
This entire arc.
The 40 arc.
I may or may not play another demo and talk about it next week. I'm not sure yet.
I may or may not escape from Tarkov.
You never talk about that, though.
No, I know. Because
I think you hated Tarkov.
I fucking hate Tarkov, yes. Stressful game.
What am I playing at the moment? Yakuza 5, that's a game.
Yakuza 5 is indeed a game. I
It
haven't
is one of
played
the
that
games
one.
of all time.
Yeah, it's good. And that's all I have to say about that. Well, I'm just going to say that next week. It's good, and then that's it. That's going to be my part.
And that's it. That's the whole bit. Fair enough. But until then, I've been Patrick. You've been listening to Fast Travel Lounge. I've been joined by Saif, Steve, and Josh, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks for a free public holiday, Your Majesty.